Hey my friends, Sam Haymart for Test Driven TV. Today we're looking at the 2016 Mitsubishi Outlander Sport. It's been redesigned this year. It's got a pretty good looking face now, and the thing about this vehicle that's always fascinated me is the fact that as good as it is, there's so many competitors in this class, and this one is and always has been at the bottom of the sales chart. So my question today is, does that mean it's the least best, a best kept secret, or something in between? When it comes to styling, they gave this a pretty significant refresh for 2016, mostly having to do with the face you see here. And this is what they call dynamic shield in their design language nomenclature. And basically, it's very similar to the family design you saw on the Outlander last year. It's a much more premium design. They've got shiny black plastic and quite a bit of chrome that really sort of gives it a tougher look, more adventurous, and most importantly, a more premium look, because Mitsubishi's had sort of gotten this impression of being, low grade, and so they really wanted to up the ante there, and I think they succeeded. As you can see, the headlights, very good looking. They've got a nice design to them. Down below, we've got fog lights on this one. New 18-inch wheel design this year as well, and this is the top of the line when it comes to the wheels. They don't offer 19s or 20s, but these 18s actually look pretty good, and they're the same wheel design you're going to see on the larger Outlander, so they've got a family resemblance going on. Another new feature for 2016 are these power folding mirrors that really have a much more premium look. They've got a turn indicator here, but most importantly, when you hit the lock button, they fold in automatically. So that gives you a visual indicator from across a parking lot that you in fact locked your car, but it also helps protect them from really hanging out there when people can bump into them in a parking lot. Out here at the back of the Outlander Sport, they really haven't changed it up quite a bit. We've got LED taillights that still have some halogen lamps in them, so there's a little bit of a combination going on there. Built-in spoiler, you've got a clear lens high brake light up here, and only one exhaust tip back here. They didn't go for the full fake dual exhaust theme that you do see on some of the competitors. But overall, they've kept it contemporary, even though maybe when this came out 5 or 6 years ago, it looked very similar to a lot of the competitors. They've all gone different directions now, and it's, well, unique again. The interior of the Outlander Sport feels, well, honestly, a little bit old in its overall design. It's definitely almost 10 years ago in terms of style, but the fit and finish and quality in here is actually quite good. The material quality on the door panel, the dash, pretty much everywhere you let your hands roam, none of it really feels cheap. And the switchgear, even though it's kind of basic, it's of a reasonable quality. Now, when it comes to sitting here and getting comfortable, the first thing I really picked up on is the fact that these seats, well, they're quite firm. They're almost hard to be exact. Most of the vehicles in the American market tend to be a little softer. Most in class tend to be a little bit softer. These are really almost like sports seats that you'd find in a sports sedan or a high-performance car, which is a good thing there, but in a family car like this, I find them almost a little bit on the stiff side. Now, I do have a power seat here for the driver. Over here, this is a manually adjustable seat, but in this trim grade, we have heaters, got a leather adjustable steering wheel, and there's shift paddles here for that CVT. And they're actually metal paddle shifters. They're not cheap plastic. They're pretty sizable. They feel substantial in your hand, and I'm really glad they did that since they went to all the trouble of putting these shift paddles here. They feel of a high quality when you actually start snapping on them. The gauges read pretty well. Pretty simple layout. You've got a 2-dial setup with a center screen that's got information. Now, this doesn't have a really high featured information screen in the center. It doesn't have a lot of the customizable feature content that you're going to find in some competitors, but it does deliver the pertinent information that you want. Primarily, I always look for temperature, I look for MPG, I look for some of those basic things that it does have. The panoramic sunroof they've got here is a very nice feature. Not everybody in this class offers it. It lets a lot of light in here, makes it feel very spacious, but it doesn't open. It's just a fixed panel. So if you're into the opening sunroof and the open air thing, this isn't exactly going to help you. But if you like the look and feel of it, it is a nice option. In the back seat here, I have the same pretty firm, well, almost hard seats as I had up front. They're flat, they're hard, and as you can see here, there's not a lot of space back here. This is one of the smaller vehicles in its class, and that shows here with legroom. Now these seats, they're about halfway between forward and back, so they can come back further, and my knees are up against these seats. Most of the vehicles in this class, I've got 2 to 3 inches of legroom ahead of my knees with the seats in the same position. Now there's no HVAC vents back here, so on a hot day like today here in Arizona, I'd be suffering back here until the cabin cooled off. There's no vents to keep me cool. There are heater vents down under the seats, but that's not going to help you in the summertime. If there's any good news back here at all, it's the fact that the seating position's pretty high. I don't feel like my knees are perched up. So aside of the legroom issue, the seating position itself is pretty comfortable. And even with this panoramic roof, I've got plenty of headroom here. The rear cargo area features up to 49.5 cubic feet with its 60/40 split folding rear seats, which are pretty easy to put down. They offer up a near flat load floor too, flatter than some in class. The only loss of space comes from the subwoofer of the optioned Rockford Fosgate audio system we had here. Under the floor is a full-size temporary spare tire, a good thing in a world where emergency inflators are replacing them. Summing up the interior, I think they've done a nice job here. It is basic. It doesn't have the latest style and fashion that you're going to find in some of the competitors. It doesn't even offer some of the features they offer, but it's well put together if you like the basic vibe. Comfort could be a little bit better, but overall I give it 4 or 5 stars. It has a new infotainment system this year that actually sort of has an old school vibe to it. It has that doubled-in square mount that looks like it has sort of an aftermarket thing going on. It's old school, but it's readable. It's very simple to use. The controls are well laid out. And the good news is this Rockford Fosgate audio backend sounds great. There's a kicker in the back. This thing really pumps and it sounds good, much better than some of the other competitors out there in their top-end stereo system. So rating this technology in this vehicle, it's simple, it's not fully featured. In fact, it doesn't have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, but I rate it very highly because it sounds great. 5 stars. Under the hood of our Outlander Sport was the optional 2.4-liter Mivec 4-cylinder engine, which offers 168 horsepower and 167 pound-feet of torque. In our front-wheel drive test vehicle and with all-wheel drive, it comes only with a continuously variable transmission, or CVT. So this thing has these really slick paddle shifters, and I'm really curious to see, I bet you are, how they actually work. Fifth and sixth. They actually offer up a convincing shift. It's still a little bit slippy, but it's almost convincing like it's a real transmission. I got some downshifts coming into this corner here. It's a CVT. It's still a CVT, but at least it's got these nice paddle shifters here that let you play with it a little bit and get that traditional shifting feel when you want it, especially out here on a back road. It's pretty slick. Now, when it comes to power with this thing, it's competitive. It's really right up there in class with most of the competitors on their standard engines. Some vehicles out there in its class offer turbocharged engines, which have more power. And of course, you can get the 2-liter engine. That's a little bit less power. But this one seems to be fun, especially with these paddle shifters. I like it. Now, fuel economy, 27 is what I got for the week. That's actually combined city highway. I was pretty impressed with that, given that it is more than what was promised by the window sticker, and that's always a good thing. And it's pretty good for this class, I think, even with front-wheel drive. Therefore, the powertrain gets 4 out of 5 stars. Riding out here on my favorite back road, I'm finding that it's actually pretty quiet in here. This is very noisy pavement on this road right here, and so it's always a good road noise test, and I'm not getting a lot of it, so they've done a good job with sound deadening. And the other thing is this panoramic roof. A lot of times these roofs, they really give a lot of wind noise, and they cause a lot of echo effect in the cabin here, and there's a little bit of that, but it's not bad at all. Now, if it opened, that might be a different story because of the fact that it would have seams in it. In this case, it's a solid piece of glass, therefore wind noise that would be caused by it's pretty low. Now out here, there's a little bit of wind out there, a little bit of buffeting, and I'm not really feeling it too badly in here. The ride's pretty stable. It's not too top heavy. I get a little bit of float. it's a pretty soft ride when it comes to these SUVs. So if you get some speed up and hit some dips, this thing does float just a little bit. But when you throw it into a curve like I'm going to right up here, not a lot of body roll, and it feels pretty confident. It does have electric power steering, so you don't get a lot of feel there, but it does have an overall feel that's pretty confident out here on a back road. Now, if you watch my videos, one thing you know I love to do is bring a crossover or an SUV out here to the desert washboard road, because they sell these things to us to get them dirty, so they ought to be able to drive out here at the very least. Now, this isn't off-roading, this is just a gravel road, but it's a great way to see how well put together this vehicle is, how well sorted the chassis is, and overall how well they've tuned it for the rougher stuff beyond the pavement. And so what I'm finding out here is that when it comes to the driving and handling, this is actually pretty solid and very well composed. I'm not getting any rattling or shuddering through the suspension, through the steering, no kickback in the steering over the bumps. It really absorbs all this rougher surface exceptionally well, better than some in class. So when it comes to the chassis, I have to give it 4 out of 5 stars. This Outlander Sport was assembled in Japan, as they all are now, which, as expected, gives it excellent build quality. The paint finish was smooth, the body panel alignment's good, and the interior materials and fit were quite excellent for its price. The headliner did rattle quite a bit, however, on the washboard road, bringing quality score to 4 or 5 stars. Safety ratings for the Outlander Sport come in good for most of the tests of the IIHS, with the exception of the small overlap crash, where it only achieves an acceptable rating. It's not a top safety pick as a result of this, as well as its lack of an available crash prevention system. Well, folks, rounding it up for the Outlander Sport, I gotta tell you, I was pretty impressed with it overall. It's got some driving characteristics, and just the overall living in it experience I actually like better than some of the competitors out there. So what I'd recommend is, if you're looking at all the different competitors out there and you really haven't quite set on one, give this thing a try, because it actually offers something just a little bit different that might just press your buttons. Now, when it comes to specs, looking at this one right here, we're at $27,000. Mid-grade, okay? You can spend a little bit more money, you can spend a lot less here. This actually starts out just under $20,000, and you can get a manual transmission in this, and that's something that a lot of its competitors don't offer at any price, period. So if you like a manual, something basic, you can get it here. Now, fuel economy, I got 27, and that's one more than what was promised by the window sticker, so that's always a good thing. And so when I put together a value quotient here, I mean, I look at the features this has. It doesn't have everything that everybody offers, but it does have things that they don't, like that panoramic roof. It does have a few other nice features, like the audio system. Rockford Fosgate sounded great. So $27,000, I think, for this trim grade, as it's equipped, is pretty darn good. So I put value at 5 stars. So when you put that in with everything we've already talked about, we're at 4.5 stars for the review. Pretty good. I am Sam Haymart for Test Driven TV. I hope you enjoyed the ride. Well, friends, if you liked the video you just saw, click on the link right here on your screen and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We test drive 1 to 2 cars a week. Plus, we have a new video almost every other day. There's always something new. So stay tuned.